Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'm tuning in live from downtown Los Angeles with African Chop. My name is Bianca Collins. I'm curator of public programs for the Fowler Museum at UCLA. Thank you for joining us today or tonight, depending on where it is you're tuning in from around the world. The Fowler is proud to present today's program as part of our Global Cuisine cooking lessons, which offer the opportunity to learn how LA's favorite international restaurants cook up their most famous, easy to make dishes in live cooking classes led by their chefs on Zoom. It turns out when food is your love language, some secrets are too good not to share. As a complement to our current exhibition, Photo Cameroon, Studio Portraiture 1970 to 1990s, the Fowler is pleased to present a program partnering with African Chop Food Truck and offer a foray into the taste of Cameroon. The first African food truck in LA, African Chop, is headed by Cameroonian founder and Executive Chef Opportune Akendeu and co-founder Hector Tantoh. Their delicious West African cuisine offers a fresh take on classic dishes they ate growing up, with a flavor profile inspired by fond memories of their home. So we're so pleased that you have joined us, Opportune and Hector, for a special chance to learn how to cook a regional specialty, ndoleh, a dish consisting of stewed nuts, ndoleh, which are bitter leaves indigenous to West Africa, and fish or beef, with optional add-ins like prawns and rice and a side of boiled plantains. Ingredients lists were sent upon RSVP, so I hope that you've come with your supplies prepared and ready to cook. If you have any questions during this program, please do submit them through the Q&A function found at the bottom of your Zoom screen. All right, that's all from me. Over to you two, Opportune and Hector.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming and joining us so we can prepare this delicious meal. You guys, I'm Opportune, like she said.
And I'm Hector, and thank you guys for joining us.
We appreciate you guys, and I hope it's going to be a smooth one. It'll go fast, but really smooth. We're not going to miss any steps.
So what are we making again?
So we're making ndoleh and some boiled plantains.
All right, and ndoleh is a very Cameroonian dish. It's one of the most popular dishes across Cameroon. So we chose that for a reason. Like Bianca said in the intro, the main ingredient for ndoleh is bitter leaf. So hopefully you guys are able to go out and buy your bitter leaf from the stores Opportune recommended. And we're gonna get into it shortly.
All right, let's check out the ingredients first. So what do we got going on here?
You wanna?
Yeah, so this is the dry fish, and this is a smoked catfish, and we have our Himalayan salt. If you have another salt, that's fine. We have the Maggi, and remember, if you had another type of beef bouillon or chicken bouillon, that's also acceptable. And this ingredient is really important. This is the crayfish. We have our garlic and ginger and habanero peppers. So be very careful. I know I put it there, but if you like spicy food, go ahead and put 2 or 3, but be very careful. We have our beef. Remember, you were supposed to cook and boil your beef. So I have some beef and goat meat as well. So it's about to be delicious. And do not forget your stock. You need it.
Okay. And then
this is the beef stock from the meat at the board, right?
Yes.
One thing to note, guys, if you probably already thought about this, but if you have any allergies, so maybe if you have a shellfish allergy, you might not want to have the crayfish in case you have any allergies. We can talk about how we can make it seem like the same kind of thing without using that, but it's a very key ingredient. But if you have any allergies, you want to avoid that with shellfish.
Okay.
That's amazing. It's amazing that you said that, because if you were not able to get the bitter leaf, we had a recommendation for that. So I hope that, you're able to use whether it's spinach or collard greens. Collard greens is usually preferred, but spinach will do well too as well. So let's just get ready and get into it.
All right. And we also have our peanuts and our plantains and the defrosted greens, right?
We do have our pre-defrosted greens right here.
So that's what's that? Is that the bitter leaf?
That's a bitter leaf and some spinach as well.
Right.
So let's get ready.
All right, let's see. No questions yet. That's great. We're doing great. All right, let's keep going.
Okay, great. So what I would do is I would start by blending the peanuts. So I don't know if you're ready. So we'll blend the peanuts here.
And these were boiled beforehand? You had
Yes,
them,
so
you know,
yeah, so
you have
everybody
this-
was supposed to boil their peanuts already. So go ahead and just toss it into your blender. And that's the first thing that's gonna get into a pot.
And how many cups of peanuts are that?
So this is about 2.5 cups of peanuts.
All right.
All right. Let's get ready and blend. It's gonna be a lot of noise. So if you have kids that are afraid of the blender, make sure they're not, because I have a niece that does not like the blender. That's Hector's daughter.
Yeah.
She does not like the blender. So
So are you putting it on high?
So yes, so when you're blending this, I would try medium. Let's start with medium and then be careful because we're trying so hard not to put a lot of water in it as we blend. So let's just try, but if it gets tight, if it gets too thick, just put water, just gently put water in it.
Okay.
But
So
ultimately, you want ultimately they want the consistency to be very smooth, right?
yes,
So
yes.
depending on your blender, medium might not work because medium might be not powerful enough to get the consistency right.
Right.
So
And depending on the type of blender you have
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So be mindful of that. Thank you, Hector.
Someone's
true.
asking what the liquid is in there with the peanuts.
it's
It's
just
just water.
the water from the boiled peanuts.
Yeah, it's just water.
Right. And yes, we this program recording
Go ahead. So a little bit more water, just add a little bit more water. What did they say, a food processor?
Yeah, that will work as well.
That
But-
should work.
Again, you want it to be
Again, you want it to be sort of fine and smooth, not too grainy. Like, so just make sure that whatever you use to blend, just make sure that it's smooth. Also, you don't want it too pureed. Like, you don't want it to be as smooth as what is it?
a smoothie.
Applesauce or a smoothie from one of those places. Nobody endorsed us, so we're not calling no names. So this is perfect. This is a perfect consistency.
Can you maybe
There you go. This is amazing. So
yeah, do you have a spoon or something?
yes, let me use this. So that way you're able to tell the consistency of it. It's not too smooth, but it's perfect. It's not too smooth, but it's perfect.
Okay.
Right, okay. So what we do now is we'll put it in our pot. So I don't know if you're ready. If everybody's ready, just turn off your stove and make sure you put it in your pot. Use any spoon that you have so you can scoop it out of your blender. There you go. Oh, Hector, can you do me a favor? I don't know if you guys, everybody has a Hector in your kitchen, but I have Hector. I always have Hector.
I'm the extra set of hands, so-
So Hector's my extra set of hands, and it's always amazing working with Hector. He understands me. I don't usually talk as much, but
Yeah,
Bianca
usually
said I
I do
have to
talk.
talk. So, yeah.
So what do you need to get?
So I just need the beef broth because that's what we try to use that,
So we
to
want a
cook.
large pot is where the peanuts go because everything else
Yes.
is going
Yes,
in there, right?
everything else is going in the large pot. So make sure you use the large pot for your ndoleh. Because that's where everything goes. It's almost like a one pot type thing.
Mhm.
It's like what Americans would call soup, when you're cooking soup and then you just have this really large pot and you just throw everything in it. But don't throw everything in it right now, okay?
Okay, great. And so for everyone who's asking, this program's being recorded. It'll be available immediately on our Facebook afterward for you to return to and reference if you missed something and didn't ask a question live for us to answer. And then
Right.
it'll be available on our Instagram and on our website early next week.
So you want to make sure you take out as much as possible so you're not left with some of the peanut in there
You
because
want to
then
add a little
again,
bit of the broth maybe in there?
yes,
to
Hector,
shake
that's
it?
a great idea.
So
You know,
that's-
or probably you can add a little bit of broth in your blender to shake it off, so you're not, you know,
Wasting.
wasting a lot of stuff. So, or a little bit of water. Just don't go too, you know.
So you want to do one of the
So
broth?
let's do the broth, okay? Just so that we can get okay. There
So
you
you're
go.
putting a little broth in there.
Yes, so I'm
blender.
putting a little broth in the blender just so that it can help me kind of scoop out the peanut.
And is there any nut that you can substitute for peanuts for this recipe?
Oh, you know what? That's true because a lot of people, you know, I was thinking a lot of people are actually allergic to peanuts. So if you're allergic to peanut, what other nut?
I've heard people try to do take one of ndoleh with almond. I've never personally tried it. What I would recommend is if you're allergic, then maybe try the almonds. But if you're not allergic, what I would do is probably do it the regular way and then learn that and then try the almonds later on. So you can kind of compare what the taste is supposed to be like. But traditionally, it's made with peanuts. But I think there's some talk about people using almonds in place of peanuts.
So guys, just a little bit of water. I want to say like 1/3 cup of water in your blender, and that's it.
Okay.
See?
1/3 of cup water in your blender just to get the rest of the peanut out.
All right.
And remember, one thing with the water is that it's easier to add water, but you can't take water out.
Yes.
So when you're adding water, you want to add just a little bit at a time, just to make sure you don't overdo it. Because if you add too much water, then it's harder to reverse that process. So it's better to add a little bit at a time to get the peanuts out of the blender, and then have that consistency we're looking for.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just put some of it because remember we had 3 cups, right, of the broth. You should have at least had 3 cups from the beef broth. So I'm putting this. This is the extra one, so that's 2 more in there.
Okay, so now 1 cup of the broth is in.
So 1 cup of the broth goes into the pot while we let it come to a boil, and then I would say like in like 5 minutes, Hector, I think it's a good idea for us to actually put in the fish, the smoked fish, because Hector, tell them why, because you have a better knowledge.
The smoked fish is already smoked, right? So it's not raw fish. So you don't have to cook it for too long. The only thing you're trying to do is to get it rehydrated. So it's smoked fish is pretty brittle, it's very dry. But once you cook it with the water and the liquid, it kind of gets back that fish consistency.
Right.
So it's not raw fish, so it doesn't need to be cooked for too long, but it's long enough to get it back to the consistency you're looking for. Because right now it's very brittle and dry.
It's gonna rehydrate it.
Yeah, it's gonna rehydrate it, exactly.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm supposing that there's some ladies and gentlemen here cooking. So remember, we needed ginger, garlic, and habanero, right? And onions. So we're going to get ready to blend our ingredients. So I typically like to blend them separately. Hector does too, because I hate merging the peanut. Because what it does is, people do it that way, but what it does is it overcooks the ingredients. You kind of want to taste it because the garlic and the ginger has this beautiful aroma. Your house, be prepared for your house to smell really, really yummy right now. So I'm going to go ahead and blend it. I typically use the smaller blender for that, just so that I'm not wasting my ingredients.
Mm-hmm. So you're putting in the ginger.
So I'm going to put the ginger, the garlic, the habanero, and half of the onions.
Okay.
Remember, we needed 1 large onion. So we're going to put half of the onions with the spices as we blend. And remember to put the flames under your pot to the medium heat level, so that it's not like medium high. So it's not overcooking.
Okay, and are you gonna chop up the onion before you put it in, or are you gonna put it in whole?
So I mean, you're not chopping it off. We're not chopping off the onions. We're gonna cut it enough so it's able to blend, just so it blends.
Okay.
Right. So I typically like to chop the ginger, like just probably cut into 2. I'm using like a whole inch.
Peeled
ginger.
ginger.
Peeled ginger. But I don't think that not peeling ginger is a problem. Think
Oh.
about the smoothies you drink. Well, I drink smoothies, so I typically
Yeah, I
don't.
think it's just cleaning it properly.
Right.
Peel or not peel doesn't really.
It doesn't hurt anybody. So Hector, do you want to tell them about the plantains?
Yeah, so while she's doing that.
So all of this is washed. Everything has already been washed, but you know, it's nice to be.
So while she's doing that, ultimately we're gonna have to eat the ndoleh with something, right? And today we're using plantains. So we have plantains here. Most of you might have had plantains before. If you haven't had it before, it looks like a banana, but it's not a banana. They call it a banana, it's a plantain. It's sort of serious business. So it has the consistency of a starchy root, so maybe like a potato, or would be a similar comparable thing you might be familiar with, a sweet potato maybe. But we have yellow plantains, which are, these ones are ripe. So the ripe ones are usually sweet and easier to cook. So you can either have this deep fried or you can have them boiled. Today we're gonna boil them.
Okay.
And then we have the green ones. These are not so ripe. They're a little bit harder, but people prefer this sometimes because they don't like the sweet taste of the ripe ones. So it's a personal preference. So today I'm gonna do one of each. So we're gonna just cut this up and boil them. And I'll show you like the second ones I cut them up. Remember with these, you pretty much cut them in half. You can boil them with the skin on them. And then once it cooks, the skin comes off. It's a shortcut. You can do it the other way, but I think it's an easier way to just boil the skin on them.
We prefer, let's say we in the diaspora prefer to cook the plantains that way. Because you know, in Cameroon, we actually do it the proper way. If you were telling your mom you were going to just chop off the plantains and put it in the pot, you will be in trouble. But because we're in America and everything is like we're always conscious about time. So we found shortcuts like that. So that's how I always boil plantains.
Thank you. Okay, so I just want to check in real quick about the onion and see what people are asking for questions before we handle the plantains.
Okay.
Just let me set up here.
The onions, do you want to take a look at how they look? So you just chop it enough so it can fit in your blender. Okay. Let's say you are using a bigger blender, you will need to chop it up this small. But because I'm using the smaller version, again, remember why I'm using this. I don't want to waste my ingredients. That's why I use the smaller version as well.
So someone's wondering why you aren't sauteing the onion, ginger, and garlic to bring out some of the flavors.
To be honest, remember that mother in Douala, when she created this recipe, it wasn't sauteed. We've never sauteed the onion.
Although at the end of and you do.
It's coming. Remember the other part of the onions gets sauteed in a sense at the end of it. It's like the finishing, so we have two parts of it. It's a finishing touch. So guys, before I blend, I want to add in the smoked fish that we have.
Yep.
Remember? All right. So you check your pot, put it inside. Good.
Mix it a little bit.
Yeah. So make sure you stir. Hector, do you want to do that while I blend? So sure. Hector, go ahead and start down.
You can see it's a little thick, but it should be boiling up at this point. You want to keep this lid on it because you can see that it's very
oh yeah, it's popping.
It's like a volcano.
Okay.
So, let's keep that going.
All right. So mackerel just went in with the peanuts and 1 cup of the broth.
Yes.
And now we're putting the ginger, the onion.
So now the ginger, the onions, the garlic, and the habanero. Make sure you put in a little bit of water. I want to say about the same 1/3 cup of water. And just be very careful not to put over, just so that way our ndoleh is not very liquidy.
Yeah.
Because we still, as we cook it, based on the consistency, you will see me go, or just add a little bit of water once we add the broth. So we, so it's coming. So I'm about to blend this.
All right. So do you guys ever smoke your own fish?
Yes.
Well, we can talk about that afterward.
Perfect.
Beautiful.
All right. So while we wait for a little bit, Hector already stirred that. While we wait for that, I would suggest that we take out our frozen. It's not frozen anymore, right? So your spinach and your ndoleh, and put it in a bowl. Remember, I recommended that we have a bowl. Put it in a bowl together so we can mix it up together. So that to kind of give it like a oneness, like the two become one. Marry them together.
There you go.
Right.
And what about the plantains? Are the plantains going in first?
Yeah, so you want it, because when you're done, you want everything to be ready. So while she's doing that, let me go ahead and do the plantains real quick. It's gonna be really.
Let's try not to do two things at once,
Okay.
since some people might be cooking with just one person.
You know what? We're sorry.
Right.
So we're gonna let Hector do the plantains first. But just start preparing. That's the next step.
So for the plantains, we gotta bring the water to a boil.
Right.
So I'm just gonna. You can't really have too much water. You want it to be almost fully immersed when you cut it up.
Right.
So I'm gonna do that and then put this on here and bring it to a boil. And
that's actually an amazing technique to actually boil your plantains that way.
Yeah,
not
that's
everybody
awesome.
does that.
Yeah.
Hector. So that's actually brilliant.
yeah, so bring it to a boil and then in maybe about 5 minutes, I'm gonna add the plantains to the water and let it do its thing. It's pretty low maintenance.
And how are you preparing the plantains?
So with these ones, because I remember how I said,
Okay.
remember how I said we're not really gonna do anything to them. I'm just gonna cut them in half. So I have a plantain here. You might want to use the chopping board.
You should use a chopping board.
A knife.
I don't. I always use the chopping board. But
that's
Hector.
that's that. And then with this one again, I just cut it in half. I'm gonna take off the little edge right here, and that's good. And then I'm gonna
Run some water, wash it.
Yeah, just run it under some water.
Right.
And once the pot comes to a boil, I'm gonna just throw this in there. So it's pretty straightforward.
All right.
Yeah. So back to.
Let's see if we have any questions before we move on.
And remember to just keep checking on that pot, right? And let's stir it. Let's stir it. Make sure you're stirring and be careful because it's gonna splash out. You know, be careful to kind of tilt your pot this way so that it doesn't splash in your face.
Oh, I see.
sorta.
Keep the
Right.
cap on,
Right.
protecting
So it's
you.
It's a shield.
So
See, this is a war.
people are wondering if this dish is traditionally eaten on holidays in Cameroon.
I want to say that. Because think about it. Christmas is not your typical everyday, or maybe Sundays. Because you can't really say that. On Sundays, typically, is when you have the delicacies.
Yeah, it's not everyday thing,
It's
but
not
it's pretty
everyday thing.
frequent though. It's still pretty common. So if you want to visit someone, they're gonna make something special for you. They'll probably make ndoleh. So it's pretty.
It's a special.
It's pretty common. So one thing to note. So we're using bitter leaf, which is very common across West Africa. So a lot of dishes have bitter leaf in them, and they're literally bitter leaves, right? So
And ndoleh is bitter leaf.
Ndoleh is bitter leaf, which is the local way for local language for when this dish originates.
Right.
The reason why bitter leaf is so popular across a lot of different cuisines in West Africa is because the actual bitter leaf itself grows in very many different climates. So it's easy to have it at any time of the year. So and dry or wet climate, it grows, it does really well. So that's why it's really popular. So if you think about what can we use throughout the year, that's what's going to be available. Right. Bitter leaf is available for the most part. So that's why it's one of the very popular things to use in a lot of different cuisines.
All right. Okay.
So remember, I said try to marry them.
Yep. I think everyone's
like
caught up.
one, so you don't know the difference between the spinach and the bitter leaf. It becomes one, but we're not putting it yet. We just want to be prepared, you know, for when we do put it. So I think it's about time for us to dump in the rest of the broth, because I think this is cooked enough. So we're going to put the rest of the broth and put in the meat too, so it cooks in, you know, with the rest of the stuff. Because the next thing that would get in here would be the spinach and the crayfish. So I think it's time for us to put in the broth. And then once we put in the broth and put in the meat, then we'll be able to tell if we need to add more water. So let's just wait and see how it looks and
so
the texture.
The last 2 cups.
This is the last 2 cups of the beef broth.
Okay.
Yes, make sure everything gets in there. That good stuff. Yeah. Just a tiny bit of water, just a tiny bit, you know?
Just to get the rest of the broth out.
The rest of the broth, because you need it. See, look at that. It's not, I mean, if you're measuring, this is about two cups or no, 2 spoons, teaspoon, no, tablespoons. So put it in there. And always remember to stir.
And what do you do with the Maggi cubes?
Oh, the Maggi cube is coming because you know that's towards the end, like almost towards the end. Once we put the spinach, because then the thing is we want the spinach, everything to have. But Hector does the Maggi cube. Typically, he does it differently.
So I mean, there's no right way.
Right.
The thing is that because it wouldn't matter in this case, but the Maggi cube is a cube, so you want to make sure it cooks all the way through into the dish. So if you put it a little bit earlier, it has time for it to fully dissolve and fully absorb into all the ingredients.
I agree.
So you don't want to wait to the very end, but you know, if I were cooking, I would probably put it
right now. But I think we should. I think that's a good idea. It doesn't matter. Like it's not. Can we check on the water? Is the water great? I think
it's about to boil. It looks like it's on the verge of boiling.
So we're going to add the beef right now, so it cooks in with the peanut and it gets in the beef, and we'll try the salt. We're gonna put in some salt as well, and the Maggi to just get it to a nice taste, and the crayfish.
Okay.
You know, so a little now, a little. The crayfish, I usually typically like to split it. So put most of it now, and then towards the end, just put it to have that aroma. But the thing is, crayfish is pretty strong.
Yeah.
It's a pretty strong flavor.
It's a very unique flavor. So while she's doing that, I think the water is boiling.
Yeah, someone's asking how long to boil the plantains. I think their water may have boiled for 4 hours.
Yeah, the water is boiling now, so I'm going to go ahead and
put the plantain.
It'll probably take about half an hour.
Right.
From now. So that's why you want to kind of think about doing this while you're making the other dish. That way.
We've got exactly half an hour left in our program, so hopefully it takes 27 minutes.
All right. Awesome. So we're putting in our meat. You know.
So you guys did beef and goat.
So we did beef and goat, just because I love goat meat.
Yeah.
But Hector does that thing.
So typically you won't have goat in ndoleh. There's no rule against it. So typically ndoleh is eaten with actually meat or shrimp. At the very end of this, we're gonna have some shrimp added to it too. But it's not uncommon for someone to just use just shrimp or just meat. Now, one thing to know, this is a little fun fact. So the name Cameroon comes from the Portuguese word camarones, which is also shrimp. So the reason why shrimp is very popular in ndoleh is because the part of Cameroon where ndoleh originates from is the part across the coast, and that's where the river that has all the shrimp the country was named after is also prevalent. So shrimp is really popular in this part of Cameroon. So the people, the Douala is the city, and the Douala people actually are the I guess the original ndoleh tribe. So shrimp is used a lot in ndoleh, and also shrimp takes a lot less time to cook.
Right.
So sometimes people use like this just as easier.
That's so interesting. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, so just a little.
All right. So are we ready?
Another thing to notice too is crayfish is really kind of like shrimp, right? It's like same family, and again you can understand why it's part of the dish, because crayfish is very abundant in the part where the lake originates from the river. So clearly you try to use everything that's locally available to you. So if it's the pita leaf, if it's the crayfish, if it's the shrimp, the plantains, are all things that are very local to that part of the country, and that's why we use them all in the dish.
Thank you.
So right now, so we have a lot to put into the pot right now. So let's be ready. So first, let's put our garlic, ginger, and I have it right now. It's time for us to put it because the meat is already in there. So once you put your meat, just make sure you stir again. Just make sure everything is all together. And now we're about to put the spices in, and then the next thing will be the crayfish, the salt, and then the Maggi.
Okay.
Oh shoot. So I'll just do all of this at once.
added the blended garlic and onion. And then how much salt is that?
This is 1 tablespoon
Okay.
of salt. Be careful.
Sea salt. So if you're using
Himalayan
iodized salt, it might be because some salts are more salty than others, which is so you might want to play with that a little bit. So if you're using sea salt, it's more of a salty salt. If you're using the traditional table salt, you might want to put a little bit more, but you want to put it to taste. Is a good way.
Can someone substitute shrimp paste for the crayfish?
Interesting.
Interesting.
Never tried that. I don't know if shrimp paste tastes like crayfish.
I know.
So I would say no. If you want to stick to the original. Now, obviously, this is art, right? We're creating something here.
Right.
So
Yes.
you can feel free to experiment and try things differently.
Right.
Personally, we've never done that. I've never tried it, but
I've never tried it either.
Yeah. So maybe it works, but I've never tried that. I'll ask my sister because she's also very. She always comes up with the craziest random shortcuts of different things. So that might be a little hack that we don't know about, but so far, right now, I would say no. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Okay, so we put in salt, we put in the blended spices.
So we put in salt, the blended spices, the crayfish. Remember what I said? I put in most of the crayfish and I left just a little bit to just put it towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to put in some Maggies. Hector, can you help me with that? Because you're
yeah. So these are the bouillon cubes.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're a little hard. If they are too hard, a little trick is to put them on a hot surface. So for example, this is a hot surface,
right?
And I put this cube just on that for maybe 2 minutes. It kind of gets a little bit softer, so you can actually squeeze it. Because sometimes you can mash it. So in this, how many do you want to put in here?
Let's start with 2.
Okay.
Right.
Just 2.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is really. All right.
So someone's asking what you can eat this soup with apart from plantains. You said rice is an option.
You can eat it with rice. You can eat it with, like Hector said, fried plantains is really good. In Cameroon, we eat it typically. You can eat it with cassava.
Yeah, so cassava, yams, which is like yuca, yeah.
Right.
So yams, cassava, so anything that's starchy.
Right.
To be honest, rice is probably not the first choice you want because rice is like when you have leftovers and then you have some rice with ndoleh, but that's not what you classically serve it with. So if you want to be think about what the classical way to do it is, you want yuca and or plantains or yam. There's also one more thing which is made from cassava, but it's fermented. It's called babolo or miondo. It's very Cameroonian. If you really want to be traditional, you have it with that as well. We don't have that here today, but that's something to look up. If you want to DM us something, we can tell you what that is. So again, I already put 1 in there. She said put 2. I'm gonna put the second cube. You just gotta
kind of a what would you say? Grinding it up in your hand.
Yeah. So it could get tricky. So like I said, if you put it on a warm surface, it makes it a little bit easier. Actually, I'm gonna put this other 2 on this warm surface.
Right.
So 2 now and more later.
Yeah,
so you need to be warming up the 3 more Maggi cubes.
Yeah, because the thing is, we're gonna use more for sure, but the thing is, we want to make sure that we don't over put it right away. You want to taste it as you go.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are going to move the plantains to the back of the stove and move the frying pan to the front, just so we can do something else.
So will this keep overnight in the fridge? How can people store it since we're making so much?
So ndoleh is actually one of those things where you want to be very careful with how you store it. So you definitely want it to cool up and then you want to put it in the fridge for sure. Right. If you have it with shrimp, obviously with seafood, you want to be careful because you don't want to get any kind of food poisoning if you let the shrimp sit out too long.
Right.
So you want to make sure it's properly refrigerated. But it does keep pretty well. As long as you have it in the refrigerator.
Okay. Good. So, do you want to put some oil in there? So,
what are we doing here?
we've got someone who's a pescatarian substituting lentils for meat, and they'll let us know how it goes.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah.
Please.
Actually,
please.
if you're pescatarian, you can do the whole thing without meat, and it's perfectly fine.
Right.
So if you're just using fish or shrimp, everything else is the same. Just don't use the meat. Yeah,
I think that works fine. Right.
Yeah. A lot of people actually.
Or the fish broth. You can actually boil. So you can actually substitute both the fish, the smoked fish in the beginning. I use that as your broth. So just salt it a little bit, and then you can use that as your broth.
And then we have someone asking, Wendy's asking about if there's a special market in LA. And yes, when you RSVP'd, you know, that same list that we sent you your ingredients in, it has some recommended markets as well. They recommended African Obichi Market at 4750 West Washington, and P&J Market at 14616 Crenshaw in Gardena. I'm going to put that information in the Q&A right now. All right.
Okay, so I'm getting ready to pour in some oil, you know, for the onions.
What kind of oil?
So I use grapeseed oil, but you can use vegetable oil.
Okay.
You know, I prefer grapeseed oil, just me. Hector doesn't prefer anything. Hector would eat it with any oil. He's not very picky. So I would put about, I put about a cup of oil in here. So when we fry the onions and the shrimp, so the shrimp and the onions are gonna be fried here because we're putting it. That was just optional, but we like to put it for the ambiance. Cameroonians are very well known for making sure that their food not only tastes good, but looks good as well.
Okay.
So I always say that that's just an extra. You don't have to if you don't want to. So you put in some oil in your pan.
That looks like more than a cup to me. That looks like,
look, who's counting?
3 cups.
Okay, that's it. If you're in LA, this is 10 cups, okay?
All right, everyone, you're gonna have to just make a decision for yourself. And also, so the other half of the red onion is being sliced.
Yeah, already just chopped it up. So
Right,
So it's being sliced, kind of medium slices.
right.
you can hold it up to the camera so they can see. So it's kind of like
Right.
you know, just medium, yeah.
Medium
So
slices.
kind of cut it long because it looks prettier.
Okay. And we're heating up the oil on low.
Okay, so let's check on our main pot, okay? Let's see. Okay, so it should be pretty much boiling right now. So again, be careful, use your lid as a shield. I'm typically always scared of the oil, the water. Hector's always like food force. He doesn't really, you know, I don't know if he's made of steel, but I'm usually typically very like, oh my gosh, no, just make sure it doesn't spill. Just make sure it doesn't, you know, get on me. So by now, taste. Hector, do you want to taste this? Because
Sure.
All right.
okay.
So someone's
Awesome.
asking about the half of onion. So half the onion went into the blender with the
With the garlic, ginger, habanero.
and then you left half of it for
that
this
we can-
moment.
Yes, for this moment.
But if they put it all in the blender at first, it's, you know,
a whole,
well, I don't know.
Yeah,
Not
use
sure.
the onion is fine. You just give another half.
You
You
just-
can't have too much onion.
right.
Yeah, that's what I
right.
feel.
Onion is one of those things is one of those things. Okay, so remember in the description, we did say that you can use 2 to 3 cups of oil. So typically this is about a cup of oil we'll put in the ndoleh. Once we put the ndoleh in, it's just to make it more moist.
Okay.
You know, so this is what I would say. But usually, are we going to take the oil and spill it in? We can do that.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's okay. You can-
That's true. We can do that. No, we can actually do that
So
because
at the
then
very
that's way
end,
better.
yeah.
At the very end, we can take that and put that in there so that we don't.
So we're
have
gonna
to.
use the oil from
So we can
the,
use this oil
Yeah, 'cause
to
we already
actually
have a
put
lot
it
in
in here
here.
because we already have enough in here.
so that'll
Um,
eventually get put into the.
So Hector,
ndoleh.
what would you say? Would you say that the sauce is already ready for us to about?
Yeah,
time for
at
us
this point,
to-
you could kind of taste. You could taste it. When I did, you could taste all the ingredients in there. It's a little spicy because we had the 2 habaneros in there. You don't taste the raw peanut taste anymore at this point. You should. It's kind of a very flavorful, pasty liquid right now. So
Right.
Can you use palm oil?
So ndoleh typically it's not a pure palm oil dish. So if you do use palm oil, you want to hit it. You want to hit it enough to where it gets blanched, so it's not as so you can use palm oil, but ndoleh is one of those things where you don't actually want to taste the palm oil because it's gonna actually change the taste of it. So if you do have palm oil and you use that, you want to heat it up enough where it becomes almost towards the smoking point, and you don't really want to heat oil beyond the smoking point for the most part. So in this one case, maybe they'll use palm oil. You can use vegetable oil.
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
All right. So remember our ndoleh and spinach that has been married together. We're gonna put it in a pot right now and stir it together.
All right.
All right.
And remember, so we have this this oil. You don't want it to get too hot, so we just kind of turn this on low.
It's already on low, yeah.
You want to come close?
This is the moment we've all been waiting for.
Dun, 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 dun. Ooh, smells good.
It does.
Okay, so make sure you stir.
She's thick.
And some people like the ndoleh. So this is where it becomes personal preference or personal taste.
Yes.
The more peanuts you have, the less bitter it will taste.
Right.
Some people like that. Some people actually like the bitter taste. So with bitter leaf, because it's so bitter, they actually wash the leaves before you cook with it, because you can't just cook with them from the raw, because it's gonna be almost too bitter.
Oh,
right.
wow.
That's why
people say that people say that bitterness is actually a lot of the metals and the good. There's a lot of positive health benefits of bitter leaf. Nutrients. So some people like to taste that because they feel like it's more is healthier.
Right.
Some people like a lot of peanuts in there, so it's a personal preference thing.
Right.
So this one I think is kind of this. Once you get it right, it's gonna look almost like a spinach dip.
So you don't want it to be too white, but you don't also want it to be too too green is not a problem, because back home, to be honest, back home we don't use spinach. We don't.
Yeah, you just use more.
We just use more peanuts. Right. And I want to say, this is disclosure. This is a very high calorie meal.
Very high calorie.
Very high calorie meal. So if you're on some type of diet, I would suggest that you are very cautious when you're eating this, because it's really high. Just think about the peanuts alone.
It's meant to sustain.
Right.
Yeah.
So make sure we get to a good stir, and remember the crayfish that we had left, we're gonna put that in as well. The crayfish that we had left, we're gonna put it in as well, and then we're gonna put in the 2 cubes of Maggi that we had left, because Hector already put in the 2 cubes of Maggi. So we're gonna put this in as well.
In goes the rest of the crayfish.
Ooh, this is great.
So notice you haven't added that much water from the beginning, right? So again, if you can add a little bit more if you wanted to right now, but if you had too much water in the beginning, it'll be harder to kind of fix that if you had too much water to start with.
So for us, I think that what do you think? I think that we shouldn't add water, because we're gonna add the oil and it's going to just loosen it up enough. So be moist enough. It won't be too thick, but it won't be too watery either.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of it is to make sure that you cook the soup with the actual broth from your meat. Yeah. To get the best result. Okay, this should be great.
And while that's doing that, so can you turn to I want to show them the plantains a little bit.
Right.
So one thing to notice here, so if you can see, one of the reasons why I like to leave the skin on, if you take a look at it, once the skin kind of cracks open like that, it's probably almost
cracks open.
Yeah, see how it kind of split open?
Yeah.
Right.
So that's how you know it's almost probably done. So that's an easy way to kind of, tell that you're probably almost good to go there. And if I'm pretty sure by now the yellow ones are actually done, but I'm gonna put it on for like 5 more minutes.
All right.
But I also think that there's an advantage of actually cooking it with the skin, because then in a sense, it kind of protects the plantain. Because imagine the plantain, especially the yellow ones being in there without the skin, it would overcook the plantain. Yes, it would.
Reminds me almost of a tamale, how we cook it in its skin.
Well, we have something else for you. If you like tamales, another Cameroonian dish.
Yeah, I mean, like if you guys want us here to make another Cameroonian dish, Yeah, but there'll be a lot of prepping for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of prepping for that. But an hour would be perfect for it to actually cook.
Someone said that they went to Obichi and they were really wonderful there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We're glad.
Okay, so we have 13 minutes left in the program, actually 15 minutes, just
Okay.
as a time check for you two.
Yeah, it's perfect. Okay, Hector, I think that oil, what do you think? Probably
Well,
bring it up to speed.
Yeah, let's bring it up to.
Right, so because this is pretty much, and then what you should do now, which your pot of ndoleh, is actually try to reduce the flames under the ndoleh to probably like very low, because it's pretty much ready. Hector, do you want to taste it again? Yeah. No. Okay, so the shrimp, do you want to do a close-up on the shrimp?
Yes.
So your shrimp should have been out of the fridge by now. It's deveined, so I always try to get like raw shrimp. I get it from Sprout. So this is about a pound of shrimp. So I got it from Sprout. It's already deveined, no shells, nothing. No, that's not true. It had shells on there. I had to take it off.
Okay.
Right. So
tail was still on.
the tail was still on, right? I just took out the shell. Okay, Hector, do you think that your onions are going to, because you're gonna do it. I don't want them to see me on camera.
So
Wait,
Huh?
Huh?
Are you gonna do the shrimp first or the onion first?
Let's do the shrimp.
Okay.
The shrimp first, because then the onion is not really cooking.
Yeah.
Right, so we can do the shrimp first. You want to dump it? Maybe put it full so that it's not splashing.
You see it,
No seasoning. Yeah,
This is
but remember, yeah.
So ndoleh is on low heat and we're prepping the shrimp and
Right.
the red onion now.
Right.
So if you wanted to, you could maybe put some like just some kind of seasoning on this if you wanted to.
Right.
There's already enough flavor in the ndoleh itself,
Right.
so we're gonna be mixing in there eventually, so it's gonna take the flavor from that.
And Hector, you know what? That's true. We can put just a little bit, just a
Yeah, just a tiny bit
salt.
of salt or something,
Yeah.
and maybe even we don't have any like, but yeah, that's good.
This is fine.
So. Uh-oh.
That's fine.
Shrimp down.
Man down, man down.
Obviously, the shrimp doesn't take long to cook.
You have to actually wash it.
Now it turns pink right away.
Right, and then it is. You actually, so once it fully turns pink, you want to kind of take it off.
Yeah, you don't want to
and put it in the
overcook it.
pot, right? And then the onions to go after, and then we'll put it in the pot. So this is about time for you to start telling the family you're cooking now. Tell them, are you ready for dinner? Dinner's almost ready. Set the table.
Yeah.
Anyone actually following along? Are you guys caught up? Is how's everyone feeling?
So let us know in a second.
All right, so I'm gonna flip this over. You can see the kind of already.
Right.
So again, the shrimp, you don't want to overcook it.
Right. You don't. I have a cousin Amabel, who would say, that's too cooked. Take it off right now.
So you just wanna. And then you're gonna turn it over.
Smells like shrimp.
And then we'll fork or something.
That's good.
Some fork.
No, that's good.
Good? All right. Ready?
I think no news is good news. I think if there's no questions, everyone's
Right.
caught up and doing fine.
Or hoping no one's burning the kitchen.
Yeah, no
No
accident.
no accidents, right? So I think that's pretty much, because we'll take this,
We have to put it in here.
So
You ready?
let me
Okay.
pour it. I guess.
Yeah, just take it and put it in
Yeah.
here, because we still have to do the
Yeah, the
onions
onions,
real quick, right? So just take it out. In the pot,
Yum.
almost ready.
Do you guys have any wine recommendations?
Any wine recommendations?
I mean, if I usually like red wines, like red blends. So I would say for a red blend, maybe like a cocoa bun from Trader Joe's. You know, something that's really smooth but inexpensive. And then for like a Riesling, if you wanted something sweet, because there's a lot of seafood in here and stuff, I would recommend Chateau Saint Michel. It would go perfectly with this. And you can find that.
Brand names.
You can find that actually at Trader Joe's as well.
Okay.
Look, because you know, I mean,
All right, so
So,
just
someone-
so you know about wine, so because the bitter leaf is bitter, so it
Right.
has a bitter taste. So if I want something that
so
can
the
complement
Riesling would
that,
be
so,
your best bet. Try the Chateau Saint Michel.
we have,
so someone said that their smoked fish is still a bit tough, and they're wondering if they should simmer it a little longer before adding the shrimp.
you can, if it's too tough, if you think that it's too tough, you can let it cook a little bit longer.
Just
So
let it
the
cook a little bit
consistency
longer.
is
Softer.
softer. But yeah.
Someone said the wine you suggested is their favorite wine.
See, Hector, you see that? Hector doesn't drink, you know,
But I recommend.
but he always he knows everything about everything. Okay, and sometimes I'm like, Hector, why do you know this? Why?
So we are going
Go ahead.
to put the
The onions?
onions in here, and this is like a blanch. Just turn the heat up a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
The heat goes up to like a medium high.
Yeah, medium high. Because you want to like kind of flash fried onions a little bit, like
Right.
a saute. And then like, somebody asked about the,
caramel.
sauteing the
Right.
onions.
The onions, right? So this is it.
This is your moment.
The way ahead. Remember we said we were going to go smooth, fast, but not mistake.
Yeah, this is definitely a little bit more oil than usual, but I think we
Right.
can control that when we pour it in there.
Yeah, because we need the oil anyways. We were gonna put in
Yeah.
that, so that's perfect.
You okay, Ella?
So our family members are actually excited to eat,
We have
AKA
people
Allah.
Hovering
I
around,
was
waiting,
here.
waiting for the
He's
food.
waiting for the food,
We've got some guests with hungry bellies.
right? So almost ready. So
The plantains are done at this point.
They're done, so we're just gonna turn it off. Yes.
Plantains coming off.
Let me take this over here and I'll put them out in a bowl.
All right.
So the onions are just sitting in the oil.
You don't want it to sit too long. So very soon I'm gonna take it
A
out.
little bit hotter. It's probably-
Right.
Get a little bit warmer before.
To be quite honest, you don't even want it to be too cooked.
So this is the part where you can control this, right? So if you're kind of think I don't want to have that much oil, you could have just had ndoleh as it was. So this is like a little extra.
This is
This
extra.
does look better when you serve it because it presents a little bit better.
Yes.
When you have it on the ndoleh with the onions over it. It's kind of how the picture you guys saw on the invite.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the onions and the shrimp. That's kind of how that came about. So I think that's good.
This should be fine. All right, guys, this is it. Hector, are you ready? What are you looking for? Okay, I'm gonna wash her.
Maybe wait for the plantains until I can.
Are you ready?
Yeah, yeah.
You ready?
This is all goes in,
Yes.
oil and all.
Yes, stir. Make sure we stir. Now I can place that here. No, it's not. Okay, no, it's fine. So you see, there's the moistness. The oil
Yeah,
brings
the
to the
oil makes
dish.
it
Yeah, it makes it very smooth. It's great. See, if you
Looks
come
gorgeous.
closer, Bianca, you can see how great, like how moist and how shiny it is. Oh, Cameroonian parties. It just always looks amazing.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I would say. I'm not trying to be biased or anything. Cameroonians have an amazing, cuisine. It's not only does the food look good, the food tastes good most of the time or all the time.
Awesome. Okay, we've got like 5 minutes left.
Okay.
So the plantains are off the fire. Should have a colander out, right?
Right.
Yep, but let me actually try to grab
What do you
that
want to
real
do?
quick.
Right. Okay, but what you can typically do is just drain out the plantain. Use the meat. Drain it out.
Oh, who needs a colander?
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right.
I'm gonna use a bowl.
Okay.
Um,
Some more on top. Sure.
So I want to show you guys this. So remember how I said the yellow plantains, the ripe ones are gonna be a little bit softer. So you can see that this is almost, and I know this is gonna happen because I left it in there at the same time with the green one, but this is way, so you can see it just kind of peels off and falls off of it. Now, if you look at the one that was more green, it's gonna be a lot harder. So you can see the skin again is cracked. That's how you know it's done. And you can literally just kind of peel this off like that. It's kind of hot, so.
Yeah, it's very hot.
So again, that's gonna be a little bit harder than the other one that was more ripe.
So do you have it ready?
Typically, there you go.
And voila.
Yep. There you go. You want me to add a little bit of the Ooh.
Yum.
Voila. And we're ready.
Oh my gosh. Let me get a close up.
Yes.
That looks divine.
The moistness.
Yes, I see the moistness. It looks beautiful. African chop. You guys really know what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, all of you guys, for signing up for this. And we're really honored that
we're gonna have Bianca do a taste before we sign
up.
Sure. Tug my arm. Yes.
So you can. It's hot, so be careful. Okay. So how do I help you? Okay, just make sure you're on camera, okay?
All right,
let me take your job. Just make sure you blow it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I want a little bit of everything.
Do you eat spicy? So be careful.
I can handle it.
Okay.
Oh my God. Wow. Oh, wow. This is amazing.
So there you have it. That's your
it.
Plantains.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. We appreciate you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And until next time, follow us on Instagram. It's just African Chop.
If you have any questions about this particular process, you can DM us on Instagram. I think it's going to be available on the website.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Yep. And if you guys want to show us your creations,
please tag us.
Tag African Chop, tag Fowler Museum, and we would love to see your creation.
Right. Thank you so much. Have a great bon appetit.
Yes. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you next time.